So welcome to the AERC side event. We have titled it the role of policy in reducing malnutrition in Sub-Saharan. My name is Mark Korir. I'm a manager in the training program in the African Economic Research Consortium. We are based in Nairobi, Kenya. We are very happy to be here. We will have kind of two sections in the side event. First of all, to present some summaries of some work that we did under a project we called it AFPON, Agricultural Policy Analysis for Nutrition Outcomes. And then we will go to our new project and tell you about it. So that is the two, those are the two sides of it. Let me invite our panelists, our Executive Director, Professor Theophile, please come over. Okay. Let me also invite Shelley Sandberg, BMGF, then Lanoy, please come over. So with us in front here, we have Professor Theophile Azamahu. He is the Executive Director of the African Economic Research Consortium, and he will be our first speaker, just to set the pace. And without much ado, I think I can just allow him to come and share with us a few points. So welcome, Theophile. Take the stage.
Thank you, Mark. So good morning, everyone. And thank you for coming to this side event of the ANH2023 conference. It's a privilege for me to welcome you all to this event of the AERC, African Economic Research Consortium, based in Nairobi. And this side event is entitled The Role of Policy in Reducing Malnutrition in Sub-Saharan Africa. First, I would like to thank the ANH2023 conference committee for inviting us to run these side events and allowing us to co-host the event. This is much appreciated. This is my first attendance to this conference, so I'm really grateful and very happy to be here. And I think for the subsequent editions of the conference, I will show up physically. This is a promise. I will come. As you know, AERC, the African Economic Research Consortium, is established in early 80, but has become operational in 1988. And AERC is a public non-profit organization devoted to the advancement of policy research and graduate training in Sub-Saharan Africa in economics. Our main principal objective is to strengthen local capacity for conducting independent and rigorous inquiry into problems that are pertinent for African economies. And we do this by creating a synergy between research and graduate training. And this combination of research and training, meaning capacity building for researchers and early career researchers in Africa, is supplemented with a communication tools mechanism that allows us, to reach out policymakers and to, carry to them the main message, the policy recommendations, the outcome of our research. And we do this basically, our research relies on three mechanisms. First, what we call the collaborative research at AERC, which is done by seasoned and senior researchers and pulling the human capital from Africa and outside Africa on really, season topics. The second is the thematic research, which targets early career researchers via a mentorship, mechanism to train them, to support them from the very beginning of a conceptualization of research till, the end product of research and the publication. And the third mechanism is research done by ARSC network members like faculty research and thesis research. Today, we have two agendas, as Mark just mentioned. One is to share with you a summary of 21 research papers. Mark, 21, it's huge, but I'm sure you will summarize in a very nice way. 21 research papers published in a special issue of food policy. Out of the 21 papers, 8 were supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, BMGF, under the ARC project, Agricultural and Food Policy Analysis for Nutrition Outcomes, AFPON. The second event, the second agenda of today is the launch of a new project, Policy Analysis for Sustainable and Healthy Foods in African Retail Markets, PASHFAM. And this project is also supported by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We are really grateful. Thank you for your support, Shili. The PASHFAM project began in October 2022 and will run till December 2025. So we are at the very beginning of that project. And this project will support 20 research papers. There is a really innovative dimension in running this project, compared to previous one, the AFPON. But Mark will tell you more about the PASHFAM project. So the charitable purpose of PASHFAM is to rigorously research on retail markets for nutritious foods for improved policy development program design and health in Sub-Saharan Africa. We welcome your reflection, your comments, your feedback and insights during the deliberations and count on you for a productive event. To conclude, let me extend my appreciation to each of you, all of you who has supported this project, PASHFAM. And we have benefited from numerous of supports. And let me start by thanking Shelley Sundberg from BMGF, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Shelley, without you, this would have not been done. I remember when we started working on, the inspection, the idea of the PASHFAM project, we were still working on the AFPON, and you used to tell us, no, wait, you have to finalize AFPON properly, and so that we can move beyond. And indeed, your support, your guidance were really instrumental for this project. We are so grateful to BMGF and to you personally for your guidance. Since the very beginning of PASHFAM, you advised us, you follow us, and you are here today at the launch of this project. You told me yesterday that to come here, it took you 32 hours, even more, because I was complaining myself because I came just from Rome. I was so tired. But when I heard that she did 32, why am I complaining? It is more than double of what I did. Thank you so much, Shini. A big applause for BMG. I also like to thank Professor Sunita Kajiala, and Professor of Global Health and Director, ANH Academy. Thank you for hosting this event. Not only you, but also Joe Yates, co-director, ANH Academy. Thank you for organizing this. I am impressed. There are people who support us indirectly and without knowing, via the knowledge mechanism, people who inspire partly these projects. And this is the, knowledge sharing mechanism. When you start designing a proposal, a project, you rely on some people who, developed, and they have thinking deep before you. We don't start from the scratch, right? And some of them, Turner and co-authors, and we really appreciate their contribution to the knowledge in this area, and they have inspired us. Thank you so much for what you did, for your contribution to the knowledge generation. And we borrow from you in the food environment framework. The organizing committee, ANH2023, distinguished conference delegates, all researchers here, thank you so much for attending this launch of the Bash Farm project. Thank you.
Thank you, Theophile. We can now proceed, and we'll proceed by presenting a short presentation titled "The Role of Policy in Reducing Malnutrition in Sub-Saharan Africa." My name is Mark again from AERC. So I don't think I will still talk so much about AERC, but you have already known that we are a research and capacity building institution with Sub-Saharan African mandate, having both graduate training, having research, and having policy outreach programs. Maybe I can just say something about communication policy outreach. We have several delivery mechanisms. One flagship one we have is the SPS, as the Senior Policy Seminar, and we are very proud of this because we normally convene senior policymakers from Sub-Saharan Africa to listen to some of our research findings. Others are shown there, regional policy forums, national policy workshops, and disseminations. So I know you know a lot about malnutrition. As in economics, we don't know a lot about it, but nutrition people, we will not even give you the statistics. So we know we have this problem, and we have reviewed literature. We have seen contributions of people like Marcelo, people like Faria, and others. Those are the ones that we looked at when we were doing the papers, and we recognize that this is a great challenge, and we think that we need to attack this from the policy space. So we have to do research, come up with some, propositions, and then we engage with the policymakers and see whether we can have some inroads from the policy angle. So we did this research. Theo has already told us about the AFPON, the Agricultural Policy Analysis for Nutrition Outcomes Project, which we began in 2016 and concluded in 2022. We have the papers in that link, and we invite you to read, because I'll just give you the tip. it's not really possible to do a very good summary. This is just to highlight and let you know that they are here and you can go and have a look at them. So we did a small summary and we called it the guest editor's introduction, and we have already talked of the title. So we kind of summarized papers looking at agricultural extension policies, things to do with education, training of farming communities and rural communities, extending, telling them about nutrition, about balanced diets and so on. And we also looked at issues of land tenure systems, human capital development, how these impact on nutrition. We also looked at markets, agricultural markets, issues to do with commercialization of agricultural value chains, among others. So in these papers, we have summaries of how nutrition or how variables of interest, what we are calling them outcome variables of interest. Things like, for example, months of adequate household food provisions. Variables like dietary diversity scores, food consumption scores, calorie intake, stunting, and so on. So these papers do document certain variables and how they relate to those certain policy variables and how they relate to those outcome indicators. So for example, the first one by Shibatu et al. Tries to look at the linkage between nutrition education and those outcomes. We have others like technology adoption, how they relate to consumption of food of foods and how they impact on food security indices. Issues to do with land acquisition. We have had a lot of research looking at land tenure systems, large-scale land acquisition, and how these impact on food production and food security. Issues to do with the own production of foodstuffs at the farm level and how these relate to stunting, height for age, Z-scores, and so on. So these are just summaries of what we have done. And we have 8 policy domains. So one is agricultural extension, another one on capital, land, and agricultural productivity, issues to do with food input subsidy. And this is major in this country, Zambia and Southern African countries where a lot of subsidies are provided. In fact, in ARC, when we see a paper from Malawi, from Zambia, it is likely to talk about farm input subsidy. Almost 60–70% will be on input subsidy. So we had a lot of those papers. We had others on issues to do with the commercialization of agriculture, the proportions of output that is sold into the markets and how this impacts on food consumption. Now, we had others which were kind of marginal, not quite directly related to agricultural policies. For example, we had this climate change paper, and it was kind of linking the maximum average temperatures and total monthly precipitation to elements of stunting and underweight. Sometimes we look at papers and say, is there really a relationship? Sometimes we say, is it, logical? And we try to look at the pathways through which the impact is moving. So I don't want to do some kind of a cataloging, just saying so-and-so did research and came out with this. Ideally, we should be able to kind of synthesize and say what is coming out of this. So I'll just give you 2–3 highlights on some of the findings, and then I'll point you to the papers which you could have a look. So for example, Shibatu shows that a smallholder productivity promotion program in Zambia increased productivity, agricultural productivity, income, dietary diversity, and food security. That is, those are the findings from Shibatu et al. When we come to the sphere of agricultural extension, we had a number of papers. We had one in Ghana, among others, and we see that there was an increase in adoption of improved seeds by a small margin. That is quite low, and sometimes we ask ourselves about the impact. So some of the statistics indicate some marginal or very small effects and impacts, and those have implications on really what is it that governments and practitioners can really do to alleviate the situation. So some other findings show that the income of the households increased, and that in some cases we did not have any effect of this extension policy and programs on consumption and on food security. So you may have some of the interventions really not impacting on the nutrition outcomes. In relation to land, social capital, land as a unit of production or as a factor of production, we find that Kinder documents that the effect of land rush, or that push to go for, to acquire large-scale farms in the period 2000 to 2018 in 32 sub-Saharan countries, had adverse effects on the production of cereals, and there was increased malnutrition. So this is a paper that was done in 32 countries over a period of about 18 years, and that is the result, that there was reduced production and increased malnutrition. Others like Valesis et al. Investigated the impact of productivity on experience-based measures of food security in Nigeria, and the finding was that an increase in productivity decreased the probability of a household relying on less preferred foods. So if the income of the household increased, then those foods that are normally not preferred, then you find that the consumers will move away from those kind of foodstuffs. Let me conclude with a small summary on the farm input policies. And here we come home, Malawi, and Matita shows that access to legume seed coupons and their redemption was positively associated with diversified diets. And this is really logical. I think when we look at legumes for nutrition, of course, this is something good, because we all know that in most of our developing countries, we do not have a lot of work being done on legumes in terms of research, in terms of promotion. And we normally have subsidies on fertilizer, subsidies on maize seed, but we hardly have on legumes. So this is a good finding. And we see that the FISIP program positively contributed to diversity, production diversity of crops in terms of the crop count, in terms of income, and in terms of income diversity. This was a finding from Zambia by Kunta Shula. So let me not continue saying what each of these papers came up with. Please visit the food policy. We have a special issue there, and it is still, 2022, still current. Have a look, and you will get more insights. Let me conclude by saying that agricultural, food, and nutrition policies have a potential. When we look at all these papers, we see that there is potential to mitigate food insecurity, malnutrition, and so on when we go the policy way. When we have policies put in place to mitigate, then we see some results. Of course, you saw some percentages, some 0.2 and so on. What this tells us is we need a multi-sectoral approach. So as you tackle from extension, education, probably we also need, some subsidy of some legume of some sort, among other. So it's not just about one intervention. Of course, we still see that even when we have increased productivity, at times we don't have access. So the low income population still would lack access to this foodstuff. So what we would say is, given the potential of extension, it's important to include nutrition education intervention in agricultural extension programs. That's something which we quite know even now, but we could emphasize. The element of the food, the seed legume, we think is important. It would be nice for our agricultural practitioners to really consider, legumes are some of the seeds that should be subsidized. It's not just about carbohydrates or about the staple maize and, the staple foodstuffs. Let's also look at these legumes because of their nutritive importance, and we also know what they do to our soils. Maybe we can just finish by saying that when it comes to commercialization, of course, we would want to have our farming community, get some surplus income, which then they can use to acquire or access nutritious foodstuffs even from the market. So the point is, if we have commercialization, if the farming community could go into high value agricultural value chains and they get income, they can go through the income route and access their nutritious foodstuffs. Let me stop there. We will welcome some Q&A at the end, but don't ask me very difficult questions because I am representing 20 researchers. So just ask general ones, which we will be able to answer. Thank you very much. Sorry, I am doubling. So I now have another hat. So we go to the next session. And this session now is about our new project. What I just presented is what we concluded last year. And already our executive director has really put good words to the BMGF and Shelley. And we are really, truly happy about this project. We have a lot of lessons we have learned in terms of the focus, in terms of what to do. And we are geared to a great new project called the Policy Analysis for Sustainable and Healthy Foods in African Retail Markets. We have already begun. We did calls for proposals in November last year. We had about 104 papers for consideration. We have shortlisted about 42, and they are now in for external review. We are hoping to fund about 20 of them, and out of those we'll have 5 on gender. And at this point, therefore, let me invite our gender expert to say a few words on what she desires to see in this project under the new project, the PASH Farm. So Lanoi Malloy is our gender expert in the project, and she will tell us a few words on gender mainstreaming in the PASH Farm project. Welcome, Lanoi.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning. I trust that you had a good evening and a good Good start to your day. So as Mark said, my name is Lanoy Malloy. I'll just start in the tradition of gender and women's studies by introducing myself. And just to introduce myself, my name is Lanoy, and my background is in gender and women's studies. And I've worked across academia and also within the agriculture sector in sort of engendering research, as well as working in programs, doing gender analysis and inclusive work along food value chains, and also within irrigation schemes, building up inclusivity, encouraging participation of women, youth, and persons who are differently able. So for this particular program, I am going to be working on gender mainstreaming throughout the project cycle. So right from conceptualization, gender is put at the foremost. So when we're looking at proposal selection, I too was involved in the selection and in terms of the criteria, but also in terms of encouraging or ensuring that teams are creating gender balanced teams, that there's a mix of male and female researchers, junior and senior researchers, both in age and also experience. And also ensuring that the teams are gender responsive. That is, they have the nutrition specialist, but they also have a gender expert or somebody from sociology who can pull out the gender issues within their projects. And then lastly as well, ensuring that there's gender-aware training for the research teams. So this will be for the teams that are selected, that they will undergo some gender training where they are able to craft gender-aware research projects and use gender-aware sort of analysis tools and frameworks. So this will be for the awarded grants. And what we hope to get into, so I'll just segue a little bit back to about the projects and what we hope to see. So as Mark alluded to, we're going to have 5 gender research projects. These are the ones that have gender at the forefront. So this will be selected from the wider circle of 20 multidisciplinary projects, which we hope to generate insights in terms of food markets for better nutrition outcomes. So within these projects, there's going to be 5 gender research projects. And what we are aiming to look at are, these should be gender projects that examine experiences of men and women, young men, young women, boys and girls within their projects, and specifically in terms of food markets or small and medium enterprises, and specifically looking at barriers that these groups face. So what are their barriers in terms of access to food markets or access to SMEs? What are the challenges that these groups face? And we imagine there's going to be quite a range of barriers and how they navigate them. So these are what we are going to hope to get from that. And then we're also looking at policy, and specifically from a gender lens, gender analysis on various policies. So again, dovetailing back to our gender lens, we're going to be looking at different policies. So what are the SME policies? How do they intersect, or how do they affect gender in terms of, are they favorable or unfavorable to men and women or youth, or persons who are differently able? And then also looking at food policies as well. How do these different groups, that is men and women, youth and persons with disability, how do they have access to nutritious foods, or safe? Have they had access to safety or safe food handling? And what are the policies around that? So that's how we are going to look at it throughout the project cycle. And indeed, we're going to work with them until they complete the project cycle. So that's where we've reached. And as we said, as Mark alluded to, there's 42 projects. So we're waiting for the reviewers to get back to us. So that's where we are at the moment. But that's where we hope to engage, and we hope to have a very robust and interesting discourse during the Q&A. I look forward to your questions. Thank you. Thank you.
So you don't fear questions like me. Okay, you can sit. So we let us also allow Dr. Maureen Cheserek to say something small, about 5 minutes, on nutrition, the nutrition elements in the Pash Farm. Welcome. Anyway, it's a nutrition project, so not too much.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Yeah, my name is Maureen Cheserek. I'm a nutritionist by profession. I'm also a dietitian. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be part of the Pash Farm project. And this project, I think Lanoi has highlighted some of the gender issues that we're looking at in these proposals. And I'm going to highlight some of the nutrition considerations that we are looking at in now when we were reviewing the proposals, or what we would expect our researchers to have in their studies. One of the most important part of the Pash Farm project is that we really want to understand the food environment pathways. We want, at the end of the day, we want our researchers to bring out that aspect of, we want them to do research that can inform policy design. We also want our researchers, the 20 researchers that we are going to support, to provide, be able to give us direction. How are we supposed to design nutrition interventions that can improve nutrition and even health outcomes? If you look at Pash Farm later, when we unveil our Pash Farm project, realize that we are talking about our own African retail markets as a food environment. So in this case, in our Pash Farm project, we really want to, because we believe that the retail markets in Sub-Saharan Africa is the best setting, actually, is a setting where much of the food in Sub-Saharan Africa is obtained from our retail markets. So we want our researchers to really bring out that aspect of, like, how can we make our retail markets to be able to provide us with nutritious food, with safe food, people accessing this food, and if they're accessing this food, are they affordable to our consumers? We also want to understand whether our consumers really do understand about what is a nutritious food, what's a healthy food. So we also are looking for studies that can investigate that, so that it can inform policy. It can also inform us nutritionists and dietitians to design programs that can really help us to improve nutrition and health outcomes in Sub-Saharan Africa. We also know that besides us understanding the need, not only how we produce our food, we want our researchers in Sub-Saharan Africa to also bring out that aspect of the value chain aspect, like how is this food processed? How is the food distributed? How is the food marketed? And how is the food consumed? Is it translating to utilization? Are people consuming nutritious food? Can they afford this nutritious food? So these are the discussions we expect our researchers to really bring out in their research work. Then something else is that our retail markets actually really exert a lot of influence on our health, making decisions on what we eat. So in that case also, we really expect our researchers to bring that out, because are we consuming healthy diets? Do our consumers really understand what a healthy diet is? So we also looking for these when we are also selecting the proposals that are the projects that we are going to support. Again, something else is that is about increasing accessibility. Are people accessing these foods? Are they affordable? So we really want to focus on the food, the retail market, because this is where, like I would give an example, like in my country, Kenya, most of the people, consumers actually, urban consumers or even the rural consumers access much of the food from the retail market. So how can, like for instance, how can we incentivize our SMEs so that they can be able to provide this safe food, so that they can be able to provide nutritious food to our consumers? Something else about the SMEs, again, we're also looking for research that addresses issues of barriers. what are the barriers? What are the challenges our SMEs are facing in providing nutritious food to our diet? Then something else in my work, I really work with many value chains, trying to make them nutrition sensitive. So something else is about prices. Yeah, prices are always volatile, changing all the time. How can we also address that? So we expect our researchers to also do that and also help us to identify some of the drivers of these accessing nutritious diets. So many later if you still want more to hear about our project, we have a stand there. We can really explain to you what we're going to do in Pash Farm. My job in Pash Farm is to put that nutrition lens in from the project design up to the end. Thank you very much.
A lot of nutrition. Thank you, Maureen. We are now getting to the climax. And the climax is the unveiling of the project. So we will have Shelley Sandberg from the BMGF come and make some remarks, and then we will do something at the end of that. Thank you, Shelley. Welcome.
I'm looking forward to that unveiling. So food systems are a powerful entry point for improving nutrition. This week, we've heard about many food systems interventions, both at farm and market level, that have had a positive impact on diets. And diets in and of themselves are a meaningful outcome. What we eat is a major contributor to the global burden of disease. In fact, I think we've heard in some sessions this week that current food systems are not delivering good nutrition to everyone, leading to significant impacts on people's health. In fact, 6 out of the top 10 risk factors for the global burden of disease are diet related. I feel like that's fairly underappreciated, even in educated and in policy circles. And we've also heard this week that a healthy diet is out of reach and unaffordable for about 3 billion people, nearly half the planet's population. Many nutritious foods, from fruits and vegetables to legumes, dairy products, are too expensive for many consumers in low and middle income countries especially. Our work at the Gates Foundation is at the intersection of agriculture, food systems, and nutrition. And we seek to increase the equitable consumption of safe, affordable, nutritious, and sustainably produced diets year-round. We partner with governments, research organizations like AERC, NGOs, small and medium enterprises. We're granting more and more to local partners headquartered and led in Africa and Asia, such as AERC, to improve the functioning of markets for better nutrition. And we do this mainly by focusing on informal markets where low-income consumers, the most nutritionally vulnerable, purchase their foods. Addressing food loss, improving food safety, and increasing the accessibility and affordability of nutritious foods are critical to improving food and nutrition security, to decreasing the environmental footprint of the food system so that you don't have to produce food again that's been lost because it's become unsafe or wasted, and for bolstering health outcomes as well. While the past project, AFPON, that you heard about this morning, some of whose outputs Mark described, was mainly focused on farm-level interventions and policies which affect the farm, this new project, Pash Farm, focuses more at the market level. Through the Pash Farm project, we're supporting AERC to gain a better understanding of how food markets can contribute to better nutrition and how SMEs working in food markets, whether it be at processing, transport, storage, or retail level, can be supported and incentivized through policy interventions to increase the consumption of healthy foods, the sale and consumption of healthy foods. They will draw upon their vast research network across Africa and beyond, including their main discipline, which is economics, and include scientists from other disciplines as well, as we've heard about from Lois and Maureen, from gender and nutrition, and potentially from environmental scientists as well. We know that these problems that we're facing at the intersection of food systems, nutrition, human health, planetary health, require interdisciplinary teams to take a look at these complex issues from multiple perspectives. For complex food systems issues, which span sectoral and disciplinary boundaries and require an examination from multiple perspectives, interdisciplinary teams are essential. So AERC will ensure that the research teams who've received the awards for the competitive call that is underway right now, the required skills to take on these complex issues. They will provide mentoring from senior researchers across the continent, and they will also provide specific training courses on topics such as impact evaluation, gender integration, demand modeling. So there'll be ongoing capacity building throughout the life of Pash Farm. The body of research that AERC commissions through this competitive call that's currently in the works will be used to inform program and policy decisions through convening policymakers and implementers from many countries across Africa. AERC has forged a nascent collaboration also with the FAO MAFAP team, which conducts policy and government investment analysis at the request of African governments, and as there are many important synergies across these two projects. With its convening power, AERC brings African-led interdisciplinary research teams to the important challenges and opportunities at this intersection of food markets, equity, nutrition, and the environment, and supports researchers in bringing their evidence to bear on important government decision-making. And we look forward to their outputs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley. Actually, you have said what we should also have said. So thank you very much. A lot about the project. So we are now getting to the climax. What I will do, let me invite Maureen to come over here, and then our colleagues at the stage will also stand. Let's position our banner properly so that we unveil, and we need the media to catch that so that we remember. It should go into history that we unveiled this project in Malawi at the ANH2023 conference. Now, do we have drum beats in Malawi? So I think we will just probably clap for them as they unveil, because we don't have all the musical instruments, or maybe if communication have something behind there they can do. So thank you very much. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, Theophile. Thank you, everyone, for witnessing this great occasion of the unveiling of the Pash Farm project for the AERC. So with that, I think we can have Maureen say something about this banner.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. Thank you, Shelley, and our ED. So this is, let me explain our banner. This is a retail market in Kenya. We took this picture in Eldoret City. It's a lady. She's also called Maureen, like me, Maureen Koech. She has her grocery. You can see her beautiful grocery here. We have the nutritious fruits for her. She's selling fruits. She also sells vegetables. So we took this side of fruits and vegetables because they are nutritious foods. And you can see in Pash Farm, really, we really want to we want our researchers to really do a lot of investigation and help us to try to understand how these food markets can improve nutrition and also the health outcomes of our children, of our women, and also for everybody. So you can see also, we really want research that can also try to leverage on ICT. You can see Maureen here also has, in Kenya, we have what you call M-Pesa, mobile, we use mobile money. So we also want research to bring out that aspect of that. Like in Kenya, we talk about mama mboga. Actually, we call them mama mboga. That is mother of vegetables. So this mama mboga, actually in my country, they feed almost, like I can say about 70% of the population with this food. So how can we support them so that they can, because they're the ones providing us with this food, we buy from them. We come from work, we buy from them these foods. So how can we motivate them to be able to provide us with safe? Yeah, you can see Maureen here has a fridge here. She has some animal source foods here. At the same time, she's packaging. So this is where in Pash Farm, we want to make it interdisciplinary in such that we have the gender experts here. Maureen is a lady. She has also employed some youth. We can see some youth. We have another one here. We also have other foods. She's also selling other foods. So we want to reach out to people like Maureen Koech, who will really help us to provide safe, healthy foods in the market so that we can improve nutrition outcomes and the health outcomes of all people in Sub-Saharan Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shirley. Thank you, Theo, Maureen, everyone who has participated in that. Let me allow my colleagues to say something. You know, I didn't quite get all the all the questions. Who has something to wrap up? Because we are done, really. Maybe 1 minute, Theo, somebody, and then you close.
Yeah, thank you so much for your interest in all these questions. And what's it's clear from all these questions, and one important thing is the role of policy in the functioning of the market, and also in the production of nutritious food. I believe that the policy plays an instrumental role and in relation to the market. Why? Because the way the market functions determines the quality of the food, and policy plays this role of coordination of any market. I don't believe, as economists, I don't believe in the perfect markets, well-functioning of markets. We have seen with the pandemic and other shocks that policies, they can react and distort the markets for their interest. We have seen this when it comes to vaccine and so on. So it's important that our policies in Africa think that they need to protect our market. They need to coordinate our market. The way the market function, what you enter, the way you let some product and other things enter in your market will determine what we produce. And this is valid for food as well. So it is important that we keep this in mind, that the free hand, the well-functioning of markets are something that we can implement. No, the role of policies is very important in protecting our producer and in determining the quality of the foods, and at the end of the day, protect our producer, and the price of goods and so on. So a lot of things are related to the market, and this is at the center of this project. That's why we really think that the papers, the research that we conducted will go around, retail markets, nutrition, gender, and so on. All these dimensions, in this domain are important for, the better of consumers, but also producers. And it is the market. The market determines, the intersection of both producers and consumers. So thank you for that. Thank you for coming. Let me close this session. And we hope that we make sure that if I say we hope, I don't think that Sherry will be happy. No, we make sure that this project will be very successful and more successful than the AFCON one, and that not only good papers will come out of this project, but also shows, how this is important, on the ground, not only for policies, but also, for people, for producers, consumers, and how we improve on the quality of goods, of foods, and ultimately, reduce poverty. Thank you so much.